Hey everyone, Shiv here. Alright, so, Designer Insights with Ben Brode, Warsong Commander. Wow, talk about a topic that everybody is hot about. 60% of the community is going, woohoo! 40% of the community is going, this is bullshit, man. Okay. Well, I'm not going to talk about the woohoo factor. You all know why I don't like Warsong Commander patron decks and shit like that, because it flies in the face of every other fucking nerf you've ever done. But the reason why a lot of people are a little bit upset by this change is pretty much because of the timing of the change. There's a large portion of the community that feels like this change was done almost deliberately to affect BlizzCon, or the World Championship at BlizzCon. Now, if you go back 1 year, a similar change was done right before BlizzCon to Starving Buzzard and Leroy Jenkins. Now, these were two tools that were used quite extensively on the road to BlizzCon to get there, and then all of a sudden they take that away. Yeah, that's like literally having like all these teams face off, and then, you know, here we are at the Super Bowl, World Series, whatever, and you tell them they have to play the game without a bat, without a ball, without, you know, it's that kind of grueling, you know. But, you know, players will adapt. They will overcome. And whether or not this was done deliberately to artificially stimulate new creativity designs or to handicap, as some people have suggested, one region over another, who knows? We'll find out. All right? But again, we're not going to put on the tinfoil hat. We're not going to have the speculation. We're going to watch this video. And we're going to add our commentary. And, you know, if he says something stupid, we're going to fucking call him out on it. Because that's what we do. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I've been really critical of Ben Brode and the Blizzard team since, like, CBT. To be perfectly honest with you. A lot of things that they have said just seemed like, well, bullshit. And a lot of times when they're asked certain direct questions that the entire community has been asking for a while, they always kind of dance around the subject, or they just don't answer it. I can understand reasons why they can't answer it and this, that, and the other, but some of their answers that they have given have just left us wondering. So, let's watch this video.
Greetings. My name is Ben Brode. I'm one of the designers on the Hearthstone team, and I want to talk a little bit about Warsong Commander. It's a card that we nerfed, or we announced the nerf to recently. It used to say, whenever you play a minion with 3 or less attack, give it charge. And now it says, or we'll say soon, your minions with charge have +1 attack.
Okay, they showed that one. It took me like about a minute to doctor one up for another video. I'm kind of wondering why they didn't give him that asset. Might have been an oversight. They may not have created it, but like seriously, you can go to any card generator and make it. It's not that hard. But I mean, that's a minor little tidbit here.
So it's a pretty significant nerf, and I read a lot of feedback about that feeling like too much of a nerf.
Oh yeah, a lot of people think that they just completely destroyed this card and put it on the same level as Starving Buzzard.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about our philosophy for charge and this card, and why we decided to go with this particular nerf as opposed to other things. So, Warsong Commander is part of this deck that enables players to kind of win out of nowhere.
I would like to point out that when the Blizzard staff was actually showing us some of the stuff you could do with VRM, this was the deck that they used too. It's not like you guys didn't know this was going to be a problem. You literally built the deck that later spawned off the new archetype.
Play Frothing Berserker, activate a bunch of whirlwind effects, and then attack for huge amounts of damage, or spawn a bunch of Grim Patrons. And in general, this type of strategy feels really bad to lose to, in large part because your opponent punishes you for playing minions. Not just like, you know, you've overextended, but like, now I can win because you played those minions. Now I can activate some greater power. Reminds me of a lot of the old Unleash the Hounds, Starving Buzzard decks, which if you played too many minions, you just lost. And so this was frustrating in that kind of way, I think.
It wasn't that if you played too many minions, you lost. It was if you played too many minions, you gave them the opportunity of drawing a good portion of their deck and thus having the answers that they needed in order to beat you. However, again, there are a number of variations that would say even with that, they would still lose. But yes, you are correct. It was pretty punishing.
So we wanted to nerf Warsong Commander, and we have this. We've actually nerfed Warsong Commander before. She used to say, your minions have charge. You just grant all your minions charge regardless of their attack. And we really messed up when we nerfed that card. We nerfed it because there was some deck that played Molten Giants over and over again with Brewmasters and one out of nowhere. But we had an opportunity when we nerfed that card to stop giving charge to other minions, and we tried to maintain that. What actually happened was we messed up in two ways. One, we made the card way more complicated than we're normally comfortable with for basic cards, which are part of this kind of new player experience that slowly ramps complexity up over time.
I'm going to agree with them wholeheartedly on this point.
As you go through the introductory missions and then the basic cards and then the more complicated stuff in expansions and the classic set. And we made it both have a trigger and a condition, which is more complicated than we're normally comfortable with in the basic set. But the
Sword of Justice, though not in the basic set, does have similar.
big thing we messed up was that we let it keep granting charge to minions.
Oh, fucking Ben, I love you right now, sir. Wow. You know, I'm going to say this. I take back a lot of the shit I've given you over 2 years. Holy shit. All right, you know, I'm going to say this right now. It takes a lot to admit that you guys fucked up. It takes a lot for me to admit when I fuck up. It takes a lot for anybody to admit when they fucked up or did not see something. You know, we can all sit here and cast judgment, but the truth be told, hindsight is always going to be fucking 20/20. All right? Sometimes you can't see the forest from the trees. Sometimes you can't, you know, look and predict how things are going to develop. So, yeah, I mean, that is true. Though, in some instances, you guys developed the deck that later got, well, streamlined and made more efficient. So, I mean, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Bravo, Ben. Bravo.
And in general, in Hearthstone, some of the least fun things are charge minions and direct damage to the hero.
Because Rexar exists.
You can't really interact with them in the way that you can interact with other things. You have to kind of set your defenses up a turn before you expect to see those things.
I would like to point out to everybody that has made this complaint left and fucking right, this is not Magic the Gathering.
As opposed to, oh, you did something, now I'm going to react to it. You have to play Loatheb before you think you're going to get fireballed. You have to play taunt minions before you think you're going to get run over by charge minions. And so these are not the most fun ways to play. We've had the most kind of big balance issues with these types of effects. A lot of our nerfs have been pointed at these types of effects. And in this case, because of the combination of all these three things, the Berserker, the Patron, and Warsong Commander, we were in a world again where charge effects were making the game less fun.
God's honest truth. None of those cards are actually broken on their own. It is only in combination that you end up getting this fucking apocalyptic world-ending shit. So, yeah.
So when we decided which card to nerf, because I've seen people asking why didn't we nerf Berserker or Grim Patron.
Or Battle Rage.
The card that is the biggest problem today, I think, and also going forward, is Warsong Commander. There's lots of cards that we would have liked to have made that we couldn't because they're totally broken with Warsong Commander. An example is Dreadsteed. We originally had Dreadsteed slated for Nex Ramus, and it was a neutral minion. And in combination with Warsong Commander, you would just play it and slowly machine gun down every minion on your opponent's board. Because
oh no, it gets a hell of a lot worse. The moment he said neutral minion, and since this is about Warsong Commander, my mind just went to one other card. That is the Flesh-Eating Ghoul. So, imagine, if you will, Warsong Commander, Dreadsteed, Flesh-Eating Ghoul, you destroy whatever they have out there. If your APM is high enough, you could literally wipe out their entire board, which, by the way, Sludge Belcher ends up adding +7 to that bastard, and then just march this guy across to their face. it would be disgusting. Yes, you could also use Frothing Berserker to do it and get a little bit more value. I mean, just with Frothing Berserker alone and that combination, you're talking about every time it dies, adding +2 to Frothing Berserker. So each time it's like, it goes 4, 6, yeah. So that gets really, really scary. But that's a lot of click, 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 click. Tablet players would have a huge advantage here. But holy shit, that would have been scary as fuck. Okay, I gotta see what he says after this.
Every token that spawned had charge, and we just run right back in. So we're like, okay, we can't make that card. Eventually, we decided to make it in Warlock, where it can't combo with Warsong Commander as easily, and that's a lot safer. But there's other designs that we've been trying that we just can't do that. Can't do it because Warsong Commander exists in Warrior. Granting charge is so powerful. So
yeah.
So helping us stop this type of gameplay and helping free up some future designs that we're excited about, felt like Warsong Commander was the right card to hit to nerf this deck. It's super powerful, seeing lots of play in tournaments. So okay, Warsong it is. Let's nerf Warsong Commander. How do we nerf it? What do we do to the card to change it to make it not be played? Basically, is the ideal thing for something that grants charge to more minions.
Two things. Second of all, I don't think nerfing a card to where it's no longer going to be played is a good design philosophy whenever trying to balance something. I find that it is somewhat problematic. True fact. But in this case, I'm okay with it. I really am.
So, Warsong Commander, we had a couple options. One, well, we had a couple restrictions, I guess, on how we nerfed it and how we could tell whether we succeeded or not in our nerf. So the first big restriction is it's a basic card. We'd like to have it be simple to help fill that curve for players from very uncomplicated to a lot more complicated in the future sets. It's a warrior build around, and that's a term we use to describe cards that inspire you to build a certain type of deck. It makes deck building somewhat easier when you don't really know what's going on, you don't know how good cards are. It's not important that you build a good deck, it's just important that you it kind of lowers the barrier towards kicking you off. So like, oh, I'll build a Murloc deck, or I'll build a Beast deck. It just gives you a hook to start that kind of thing on. So
new players, pay attention. He's 100% correct.
That's cool. That's important. Also, we'd like to keep the identity of the card as much as possible. There's a phenomenon when we nerf a card, you see the art and you just know what it does. You don't even bother to read it. And if the numbers are the same on that card, or the effect is something similar, I think that's slightly better. And we're always going to have the problem where you have a deck that uses Warsong Commander to do cool things. We've nerfed your card, your deck doesn't work anymore. In general, that's one of the reasons why we don't like nerfing cards. It sucks. And it's hard to communicate the nerfs to all players, so they just kind of end up in a game thinking they're going to do some cool combo, and their card just doesn't work, and it's frustrating. And I saw that a lot with Undertaker. A lot of players turn one conceded after playing their Undertaker, which, you know, it's fun to win the game that way, but it feels bad to the players who are not in the loop.
I don't know if you could say not in the loop. Most people go to sites to learn what the new decks are, like Hearthstone or even Tempest Storm's meta snapshots, Hearthhead, things of that nature. So, I mean, yeah, competitive Hearthstone Reddit. A lot of people, if you take this game seriously, yeah, you go to those things. Obviously, yeah, if you don't go to those things, it's going to be a problem. But I think that's like a great minority within the Hearthstone community. But again, I'm speculating here. I don't have actual statistic numbers. I may be wrong.
So anyway, we want to preserve as much of that identity as possible. It's not always easy to do that. Part of it is the identity of Warsong Commander is interacting with the charge mechanic. You know, she says charge forward when you play a minion, or when you play her, and so maintaining some link to that mechanic felt appropriate to us. Okay, so those are the constraints. What are some designs that can hit those constraints? Well, we tried lots of things. We tried things like a 3-mana 2/3 charge, just deleting her text and making her a charge minion. That's cool. That's very simple. It's a basic card. That's good. But when we imagine like the new player experience and looking at the warrior cards, putting that right next to Corp Chron Elite felt like it wasn't the best thing, and it wasn't a build around. So
I kind of disagree with you on this one, Ben, because okay, so you play that out. Next turn you could go Inner Rage plus Rampage and get some huge value. Mind you, that's if it stays on the board going via curve. Later on in play, that's going to be a whole lot easier. And at that point, you're talking, what, 7 damage? Wait. Yeah, 7 damage. 7 damage charge minion. That's not overly that powerful. We've seen other things similar. But, I mean, the slightly bigger body for less attack does offer some potential. But then again, why hasn't this become popular with other cards? Yeah, okay. Valid. Very fucking valid. So, yeah, sure. Why not?
Ideally, we can get a build around. Even a bad one. We thought about Battlecry, give your damage minions some kind of buff, or Battlecry, give your taunt minions some kind of buff. Exploring with other build arounds. But really, we wanted it to feel like it had some kind of link to the charge mechanic. And we tried probably 30 or 40 different designs to see which ones felt the best to us. And in general, we just felt like this particular design, your charge minions have +1 attack, is something that, you know, new players just don't know how good that is. They don't realize, they think Venture Company Mercenary is really bad, because why would you want to have your cards cost more? So the balance of the card isn't super important for enticing new players to build certain types of decks. And in this case, we just felt like, let's get Warsong Commander no longer causing the meta any problems. Let's maintain the 3-mana 2/3 stats, because that's part of the soul of the card, and it's connecting to charge. And let's make it a build around. And I think we succeeded in all the things that we set out to do. You know, the unfortunate thing, whenever we nerf cards, is that some cards in decks that weren't problems feel like they get nerfed. When we nerf...
That's just kind of a domino effect, but since this is a class card, that only really affects Warrior. And in hindsight, okay, so Murloc Warrior goes out the drain. Well, I'm sad that anything hurts a Murloc deck. I don't really think that's a really big issue. Probably the bigger one that it would have affected besides Patron would have been Math Warrior. But again, that kind of fell out of favor because Patron was just, well, more effective.
Undertaker Priest players felt like, hey, I wasn't in the best deck, and I got nerfed because Undertaker Hunter was really strong. And
again, comparing a neutral to a class card, it's not a very good comparison, but I get where he's coming from.
In general, that's the really kind of dark side of nerfing cards. It's not great. We'd rather not do it. But
good. No, this is actually really good. That the fact that they see that. All right. In the beginning of Hearthstone, not so much. When they nerfed the original Unleash the Hounds, which made Beast Hunter very, very viable, but that deck was extremely punishing. But it held back yet another more annoying deck, Freeze Mage. And oh my god, it stopped that deck dead in its tracks. So, yeah. So they nerfed that. Then they had to go back and change all the freeze mechanics in Freeze Mage because of the domino effect of by changing one, you create instability in another, and or basically a power vacuum. And in that instance that we're talking about, Freeze Mage grew dramatically.
But in this case, the gameplay was so unfun, we had to do something. Another kind of sad side effect is this card isn't good now, and as a warrior in the arena, you know, warriors are already one of the worst classes in the arena, and this potentially takes them down a peg. I think.
Yeah, they've never really been good. Though, mind you, getting Varian as a legendary in Arena is fucking amazing. Holy shit, amazing. But, yeah, no, he's kind of correct. But, again, nobody ever complained about the Arena value of a card, or ever looked at the Arena value as a serious design philosophy. Well, at least no competitive player does. Now, I understand why this is important to the development staff of Hearthstone, because let's not fool ourselves, Arena is kind of a cash cow for them, all right? So, yeah, it's important to look at that as well. But there were always neutral options of the same mana cost that could have actually been better for them. So, I mean, it's not that huge of a deal, but I see where it could be problematic. So, can't fault them on that.
In order to combat that, we're going to need to do some things in future sets to kind of bring warriors in the arena up a little bit. But this doesn't help that phenomenon.
Hey, you know what? I'm all for that. Go right ahead. I want to see more stuff coming out. And, you know, if it gives more arena value, cool. Gives more competitive value, cool too. Just give us new stuff, man. We love new shit because it constantly is evolving the meta, constantly changing it. Because when we get stale metas, I mean, there's only so much I can see Force of Nature combos. There's only so much I can see Molten Giant Warlocks. There's only so much I can see Paladin. You know, we need new things to keep the game fresh. And that's just kind of the way it is with competitive card games. You're always looking forward to that next set because shortly after one set has come out, you've seen a lot of it. You're kind of bored with it. Now, this change will shake things up for a bit. At least until the next adventure mode gets announced.
So, at the end of the day, we had a lot of things that we felt like were pretty important for basic cards and for this particular card. And we felt like we needed to do something that broke the charge portion of the card to stop decks that we felt like weren't fun to lose to. You know, I really appreciate reading all the feedback that I read on our websites and all across the internet, and I really liked hearing everyone's thoughts on this type of nerf. You know, it's something that we take very seriously, is when to nerf a card and how to do that. So anyway, I appreciate all the feedback, and I hope that this gives you some insights into what we were thinking and how we approach this kind of problem. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
You know what? I'm going to say this right now. I actually kind of feel bad for all the shit I've ever given this man and the dev team. One, it takes a lot to admit you made a mistake. It takes even more to explain how it was a mistake. And the fact that they gave us a little bit of an insight of how they go through and looking for balances and this, that, and the other is really an amazing kind of thing. I mean, we all sit there and we wondered, okay, hey, why wasn't this changed earlier? I mean, when you've released new sets and this, that, and the other, you already foresaw that there was going to be some complications, so you made little tweaks before the set came out. Sure, they did. They have, all right? They've done that several times. Like, they've changed a little bit of the tool tipping for, or actually the word of the text on, like, Eaglehorn Bow. They changed the value of Flare, things of that nature. Mind you, Flare had other reasons why that shit needed to be changed, other than possible interaction with Gazlo. But it was actually kind of refreshing to kind of like get into that mindset. And you know, the series is called Designer Insight, so we get to crawl inside their heads, so to speak. And I think this one specifically really got us in there. The first one that they did kind of felt like, you know, they were giving us excuses of why they're not willing to do this anytime soon. And now this one is kind of like, look, yeah, we kind of fucked up, and we're admitting it. And here's why we didn't want to take action sooner. You know, okay, I completely agree with this. I do. And in all honesty, this has restored a lot of my faith in Blizzard's handling of this game from content release. Tournament-wise, we will wait and see for 2016. All right? But you know what? Everybody get off Ben's ass. This man has restored my faith. And, yeah, I'm going to give him more of a benefit of doubt from now on. Until RNG just totally fucks me in the ass again. But, hey, that's just Hearthstone. RNG happens. So, that's all for this video. If you like these videos, please like, subscribe, leave me comments down below. What do you think? What are your thoughts about this designer insight? Because to me, this was actually really impactful. I can't wait to see the next one where he talks about why we still don't have more than 9 deck slots. Because that's like the other big button issue. We're not even going to get to Mysterious Challenger. That technically should be a legendary. But, you know, hey. All right, but leave me comments down below. Let me know what you think. I love reading the stuff. I love interacting with it. And, you know, it gives a really good idea of what the community is really wanting. Mind you, I can't do anything about that. I'm not an employee of Blizzard, contrary to what everybody thinks I should be. I already have a job. And you know what? I'm kind of happy where I'm at. So, till next time, stay safe, have fun, and remember, RNG does happen. Peace.